Welcome to the Real Estate Way to Wealth and Freedom podcast with Jacob Ayers, providing actionable content to help you along your journey to financial freedom through real estate investing. As the premier asset class, real estate has helped ordinary people just like you amass fortunes. The benefits of passive income from real estate investing will allow you to live a life you want. And now your host, entrepreneur, real estate investor, and apartment deal syndicator, Jacob Ayers.
Hi, and welcome to the Real Estate Way to Wealth and Freedom podcast, episode 89. I'm your host, Jacob Ayers. Thanks so much for tuning in to yet another episode. Today, our guest is Joseph Gozlan. Joseph is a multifamily investment specialist, leading group acquisitions of over $11 million in real estate and providing asset management services to a portfolio of over 250 units and growing. Joseph is a former lieutenant in the Israeli Defense Forces and has over 17 years of leadership experience in the software industry. Joseph began his real estate investing back in 2005 when he purchased with his wife Rita their first investment property in Israel. In 2007, Joseph and Rita relocated to Plano, Texas, and in early 2008 started their U.S. investment journey with the purchase of a duplex. Since then, they have grown their portfolio in multiple single-family properties. In early 2015, Joseph began his multifamily journey, and not long after that, led the successful acquisition of a 22-unit multifamily property in Texas. In 2017, Joseph led the successful acquisition of another 130 units in two multifamily properties in Lubbock, Texas, and has been serving as the asset manager for all three communities since. I'm excited to talk to Joseph today about his growth and transition from international real estate to investing here in the U.S., so without further ado, let's jump into the episode. All right, today I welcome on the show Joseph Gozlan. Joseph, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Hey, Joseph, it's our pleasure. Well, hey, could you tell the audience a little bit about yourself and how you got started investing in real estate?
Yeah, so it's the old story of boy reads Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and boy becomes accidental landlord. It started back when I was born and raised in Israel, so my wife, then my fiance, and I were living in a small apartment, one bedroom, and we were students, and I was working. And then we kind of got married and wanted to buy a condo, and we did, but it was a little bit too large for us, right? So it was obviously right after we read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and we said, you know what, why won't we rent it out and stay in the small apartment for a little while. And then when the time is right and we have kids, we'll move in. Well, that's how it started. And then when you rent it out and you realize, wait a second, there's money coming in here and there's money left at the end of the month. That kind of got started the whole love story with real estate.
Yeah, awesome. Well, it's so common for many people to kind of fall into being the accidental landlord, like you said. So funny enough, there you and your wife were now landlords by default. So, what did that journey look like from becoming accidental landlords to intentional landlords after that light bulb kind of clicked that, hey, you're getting rent here and it's, making a little bit of money extra month and putting that in your pockets. So I'm sure that felt good. What did kind of those next steps look like for you?
Yeah, so that was back home in Israel, and that was 2005. In 2007, I was lucky enough to be able to relocate to Plano, Texas through my work. I used to work in IT, and it was 2007. Everything around us was kind of falling apart on the real estate world. Mm-hmm. And my wife and I were fortunate enough to recognize the fact that everything is falling apart, and it's probably the best market in our lifetime that we'll ever get to see in terms of opportunities. So we sold the condo back home, and we brought the money over here, and we started our investing career over here. While at the same time, both of us got licensed as real estate agents. So we'll get to know the system and the way it works in the US and especially in Texas, and get access to the MLS. So that's how we got started, getting a few single family homes rentals.
Yeah, awesome. Well, yeah, that's a really good idea. Coming over here, foreign citizens, getting that real estate license and understanding how, real estate law and the processes work here I'm sure was a really valuable step. So could you talk about how that helped you kind of get your journey started?
Yeah, so it starts with knowledge is power, right? So knowing the rules, knowing the laws, knowing what you can and cannot do, knowing how a real estate transaction is facilitated, was good to get us comfortable with executing, right? And then the other side of things is it gave us access to the MLS, our the multiple listing system, where you can see all the properties that go online. Gives us early access to properties, gives us more information, so you can use the MLS system and go see the taxes information and all the other things in one system. So as agents, you get a lot more information than you would get. And back in 2007, Zillow was not what it is right now, right? Information was not that easily available. So that was really good for us. So we were able to find some early deals, and back in 2008 and 9, just like today, the good real estate deals would be gone within 24 hours. That's just the way real estate is working, right? Today, you might even have less than 24 hours, but usually good real estate deals are gone in 24 hours if they're on the market. Off market deals is a different story. So that's how we got started.
Yeah, awesome. Well, I'm sure that was really beneficial, kind of getting your real estate journey kickstarted over here. Now, about that time, let's kind of talk about your mindset. You become an accidental landlord with your first property in Israel, moved to the US, bought a few single family homes. What was that mindset you were going through at the time? Was it, you're going to build a little bit of additional income to supplement your, 9 to 5 day job? Was it you're trying to achieve financial freedom? Were you trying to build an empire from day one? What was going through your mind at the time and what was motivating you?
Yeah, so my daughter was born in September of 2008. And we were at the hospital. My wife was sleeping, the baby was sleeping, and I was there on the Wi-Fi with my laptop. And I was thinking, okay, I'm an engineer. My wife is an engineer. So what would it cost me to get my daughter through engineering school? And they have those online calculators that tells you, okay, in 18 years it's going to cost that much. So I put in all the numbers and I said, okay, if I want to send her over to MIT for a 4-year engineering degree, what would it cost me? And the numbers these things threw back at me were pretty scary.
I'm sure.
It ended up being like, you'll need $1 million and you better start saving $7,500 a month.
Oh, wow.
And I'm looking at it and it's like, I wasn't making that much back then. And that was kind of like, okay, we got a problem. So being an engineer, my mind always work on, okay, let's try to find a creative solution to the problem. And that's how I figured, okay, if I go out and buy a house and pay it down for the next 18 years, right? When time comes, she will have a property that she can either sell to fund her education or use the rent cash flow coming out of the property to pay her tuition and pay her living expenses. So that's where my light bulb kind of clicked, because everybody else has a college fund that they pay into every month, and hopefully it will make it to when the kids is 18, right, through all the market hurdles.
Yeah, right.
And I'm buying a property that has cash flow that pays me every month, and I'm going to have something to give over to my kid when she's 18.
It's kind of interesting you thought of it that way, Joseph, because it's almost very similar to looking at the same way with a retirement account, right? Many people contribute to a retirement account in hopes of one day having a nest egg enough to pay for their retirement or pay for, in your case, your child's college. Rather, you looked at it a little differently and thought, well, hey, I'm going to need, X amount of dollars in the future, but why not invest in income producing assets in the near term that pay me and will appreciate and be worth what I need them to be in the future? So, yeah, really cool.
Yeah, and I actually that kind of motivated me to spread the word. So I created a little book, and it's on Amazon. It's called the Real Estate College Fund. And but you're absolutely right. The concept is transferable to retirement. It's transferable to big bucket list items, right? I want to be able to travel the world when I'm 50, right? It's transferable.
Yeah, right. I guess if you're going to say, I'm going to take off and travel the world at age 50, well, you don't want to just have, say, $700,000 to your name to do that. You'd like to have that monthly income that would allow you to travel the world for as long as you wanted, right?
Yes, exactly.
After you kind of got those first several single family homes under your belt here in the US, what did your real estate portfolio and your kind of agenda look like after that? What did you start getting into, and what kind of deals are you doing now?
So we were mostly buy, fix, and hold, right? So we would find distressed properties, and we would fix them up and just keep them as rentals, right? And then somewhere around 2015, I had to go through some expenses on these properties that caused me to say, okay, wait a second, single families are great, but it's not scalable, right? I wanted to do more. I've been an IT engineer for since 2000, pretty much, and um, I kind of got tired from the IT industry. It will burn you out. So I wanted to really transition to what my passion is, which is real estate, and always have been. So multifamily is kind of what we do today, and my transition started in 2015.
Yeah. Now, what about multifamily drew to you exactly, Joseph? Was it, I mean, I know you mentioned having those large repair bills and kind of realizing that single families were great, but not necessarily scalable. What other aspects of multifamily was it that what drew to you?
So there were a few factors, right? The main factor is risk, right? So if I have a single family home and my tenant moves out, and I have vacancy, right? I have 100% vacancy. I have to pay the bills. I have to pay the mortgage. I have to pay somebody else to lease it up again, right? I have to put money out of my own pocket. If a water heater breaks out, comes out of my pocket, right? If I have 100 units apartment community, then even if 10 of them are vacant, I still have enough money to pay mortgage. I still have enough money to pay salaries and maintenance and our investors. So the risk of having to take money out of my pocket drops to almost zero on a multifamily versus a single family.
Yeah, right. Yeah, really good points with the vacancy. If you've got, say, 4 units and one goes vacant, you only have a 25% vacancy. Whereas in that single family house, if one goes vacant, you've got 100% vacancy, and then start carrying all of those holding costs and carrying costs yourself. So, yeah, really good points and something to think about there when those investors out there listening are kind of considering, the difference in single family versus multifamily.
Yeah, so even if you scale all the way down to a duplex, right? It still works to if you have one side empty, you will still have to probably get some money out of your pocket, but the other side would most likely pay at least the mortgage,
Sure. Yeah.
right? If not a little bit more. So it's a huge help to have income coming in all the time versus, oh, wait a second, no stream of income right now because somebody moved out.
Well, Joseph, let's talk about two aspects of transitioning from the single families to the multifamily space. And that is the mindset, really like talking about mindset, and financially, how'd you do it? It can kind of sound daunting to go from just, maybe a few single family homes to buying larger apartment deals. Both, how did you do it financially? And how did you overcome some of those mental hurdles in doing so?
Yeah, so I'll answer the latter first, right? So, like I said earlier, I'm an engineer. The way I'm wired is educate yourself first and then get going. So, what I did is basically I scoured the internet. I read books. I listened to podcasts, right? And try to get myself as ready as I can in order to make that transition to multifamily. At the same time, I started building my team, right? Finding the right property management, the real estate lawyers, the commercial brokers, the commercial insurance, and so on. And started building relationships with um, professionals in the industry, brokers, commercial people, commercial mortgage people, and title, and so on. So I could at least get my foot through the door, which is one of the most frustrating things in transitioning to multifamily. The financial side of things, we were lucky enough to make a few good purchases back in 2009 and 10 on single family. So in 2015-16, it was the perfect time to refinance them and pull most of the equity out tax free.
Yeah, awesome. Now, how did you pull that out tax free? Are you referring to a 1031 you did with those properties?
No, that's one of the most magical things of real estate, right? When you refinance a property or get a home line of equity, it's tax free because it's a loan. You didn't sell the property; you just took a loan.
Yeah, right.
So no taxes. What's better than that? You still have an asset, you still have an income producing asset, and you just took a bunch of money off the table.
Yeah, awesome. So you refinanced those properties, pulled out a lot of equity, and then started putting those towards multifamily properties, it sounds.
Yeah, so I took that and put it into our first multifamily, which was a small 22 unit property, and that was our down payment.
Yeah.
So we did the first one by ourselves, but you don't necessarily have to do it by yourself, right? That's a little bit. Um, let's just say that real estate have a lot of ways to skin the cat. You can be very creative. So I've seen many ways where people get started with as little as a few thousands of dollars in multifamily.
Well, Joseph, would you mind kind of jumping into some of the details of that first 22 unit you took down by yourself?
Yeah. So one of the most frustrating things in multifamily is that it's a uh, quote unquote big boys club, right?
Right.
It's hard to get your foot through the door. It's hard to get the brokers to even reply to your emails, right? I'm in a place where I kind of coach a few people these days and gave one of them the task of making phone calls to brokers. And out of a list of about 40, he got to talk to maybe 8.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah.
They don't return their calls. They don't answer emails, right? And the reason that is going on like this is until you actually do a transaction, you're a tire kicker. That's just the mentality with a lot of these guys. Not all of them, but a lot of these guys. And but how can you make a transaction if you consider a tire kicker, right? So it's a really catch-22 situation. So I had a couple ways to go around that. The first one was I went to a commercial mortgage broker, gave him a full book of all of my finances, my portfolio, my bank accounts, my IRA, and my 401ks, and so on, and told him, look, this is my financial portfolio. Please go ahead and underwrite me for a multifamily transaction. And they would come back and say, yeah, you're qualified for $1.2 million, $1.5 million, $1.6 million, $2 million, doesn't matter. Everybody and their own financial situation. And then I followed up with, you know what? Just do me one more favor. Send an email to a few of the commercial real estate brokers that you're working with and tell them that I'm a qualified buyer. So at that point, when you come through the lender and the lender vouches for you, it's instant credibility, right? It's no longer a tire kicker. It gets you a little bit higher up the list of people to talk to.
Yeah, what a clever way to get inside to those brokers, right? So you almost became pre-qualified like you would for like a single family home purchase through your lender, and then had that lender reach out to these brokers that they're in network with. So really a unique strategy there. And I'm sure that opened up a lot of doors for you.
Yeah, to some extent. So first of all, it's important to say that if you try to do this strategy, you got to find a popular commercial real estate broker. It cannot be your Wells Fargo guy, right? They don't qualify you, and they don't really know a lot of commercial real estate agents. So that's one thing. The other thing, yes, it opens the doors to you. They start replying to you, but you're still not a closer. You still haven't proven that you take steps in multifamily. So I would get deals through emails and so on, but they were not good deals, right? They were just on the market deals. And unfortunately, in the last couple of years, if it's on the market, it's kind of late. So I tried getting through. I did build some connections with some brokers that gave me a little bit of early warnings, right? Hey, tomorrow we're gonna put this on the market. Well, tomorrow is still better than hey, it's on the market. But I got so frustrated at some point that I said, you know what, I'm done. I'm gonna try to source it myself. So at that point, we built a strategy and we attacked through postcards, yellow letters, cold calling, really grinded until we talked to a few owners and finally found that 22 unit owner that was really to kind of take a reasonable price and not be too greedy and have a good, solid relationship with us.
Yeah, sure. So you were going straight to the owners when these strategies of finding off-market deals through brokers weren't necessarily panning out in your favor. So, you were contacting them directly through postcards, through cold calls, things like that, and finally found this owner with this 22 unit and took it down, it sounds.
Yeah, and that was a fantastic opportunity for us. It was an 80-year-old owner. Spent half the year in Texas, half the year in Colorado. He had a second home there. Um, he actually built the building.
Wow.
He was a custom home builder for decades, and he actually built the multifamily property. And so not only he knew it intimately and he had blueprints of everything and specs on anything, he also had a very low cost basis, and he was kind of mismanaging it, not really doing a great job because when you don't have mortgage and it's a little bit of a hobby and a little bit of your baby because you built it, you treat it differently than you would treat a business or you would treat a investment property. So the value add play over there was purely management because it was a beautiful 2007 built property built by a custom home builder, right? So he doesn't know how to build anything but beautiful. Granite countertop or upgraded appliances. That was a really good find.
Yeah, I'm sure. Well, Joseph, you mentioned it is hard to break into the multifamily space as a beginner, not having done your first deal. So, for the audience members who are maybe in that position, do you have any recommendations on how they can break into this space, maybe through a partnership or through investing in a syndication, anything like that?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, there's a lot of ways in real estate that you can be creative and get started. So doing what I did is probably the hard way, but probably the most lucrative way. You can also find if you don't have enough capital to take one of those down, then you can get together with 2, 3 friends, 5 guys, right? Each put $50,000 and suddenly you have $250,000. You can take down $1 million property, right?
Right.
So that's another way. You could also, and this is one of the questions that everybody have to ask themselves is, do I want to be an operator? Do I want to be the guy that gets the phone call at 2 a.m. when something goes wrong? And it doesn't matter if you have a property management company. Nothing is set and forget. If you take a property management company and you think it's a set and forget, then nobody will take care of your property as well as you would, right?
Right.
So if you don't want to be an operator, then you mentioned syndication. It's probably the best way to get into multifamily. You get the value and the revenue and the risk mitigation that we talked about earlier without the headache, without the phone calls, without going out to the property to take a look if everything's still standing, and without any worries or concerns, right?
Right.
And that's really efficient. It's very good for high net worth individuals that are just busy, or for people that really already do something that they have passion for, right? If you're an IT engineer and this is your passion and you love coding, you don't have time to deal with those phone calls or going out to properties and taking care of conversations with property management company, right? You do what you love and you use your disposable incomes in a place where not only you get cash flow, no headache, but you also get the protection of risk and liability. A lot of our investors are doctors and dentists where they're limited partners in the LLC. Nobody knows they own this thing. So that bullseye that they walk around every day just by being a medical professional for lawsuits uh, is getting a little bit smaller when they invest in this vehicle versus buying a single family home.
Yeah, sure. And maybe one thing to add there, Joseph, is the team and experience they get to be a part of when they're investing through these syndications. Maybe they don't have any real estate experience, but by partnering up with someone like you or I, they now have that experience. So something to think of there as well for those types of people.
Yeah, absolutely right. I've seen enough of these high net worth individuals that not only they don't want to deal with this, but when something happens, they have no idea what to do with it. Right. And I'll be humble here myself, right? I don't know what I don't know. I don't have 35 years of experience in multifamily, but my property management company does. And I know how to work with them and I know how to navigate them and I know what's good for my investors and what not good for my investors, right? So assembling your team is probably one of the most important things, and you're absolutely right. That experience and that level of uh, um, capability that comes from a team like this cannot be matched by an individual.
Yeah, well, that brings up a good point and a good transition to something I'd like to ask you about, Joseph. And that is, how have you built your team going from these single family properties where you're probably the only person involved, maybe you had a CPA or an attorney, that you were in network with, but going into these multifamily properties, I'm sure you really had to expand your team, work with different types of property managers, brokers, attorneys, all kinds of things. So can you tell us a little bit about how you've built the team around you and how they've contributed to your success?
Yeah, so I went a little bit different route, but what I would recommend anyone out there is to start with a property management company. They are the quarterback. They are the most important team player on your team. So if you plan on taking down a 5 to 20 or 20 to 25 units, then find a property management that lives in that space, that have 10 of those that they manage for owners. If you want to take down a 100 unit, you got to find a property management that plays in that space. There are very few property management companies that play in both spaces, right? Um, and once you go higher in the unit counts, obviously there's bigger players and bigger players. You got to find someone that not only have the experience. I prefer to find someone that has pre 2007 experience, right? Someone that has gone through a downturn, because a lot of people say that's never going to happen again, but I say never, right?
Sure.
Things happen. And you know what? While if 2008, 7, 8 happens again, it will be a big blow, but it will also mean a lot of great opportunities. So I'm not afraid of a downturn, but I want someone that knows how to handle a downturn, that have been there, that have seen what happens, right? And then I also want a company that has a very similar philosophy as we do, right? So me personally, I'm a big believer in karma, right? Treat our residents right, give them a great place to live, make them feel at home. They will treat your property as home, right? They will bring their friends and family to come with them in your community. So we're big believers in karma, because I always tell people karma is good for business, right? Um, so other than feeling good for yourself, it's also good for your business. So always keep that in mind, everybody. And it was important for me to find a company that actually aligns with that, because I don't want to be a slumlord, and I don't want to be an accidental slumlord because I picked the wrong property management company. I wanted someone that matches my philosophy. So I interviewed, I think, 7 or 8 different property management companies at a time, and I nailed down the one that I really, really wanted, that matched my philosophy, that had the experience, that had the infrastructure. They're at that sweet spot between too small and local that cannot take you to another city, or if your on-site manager is sick, they don't have people to replace them, right? Um, for a week until that person comes back, or a few days. And I don't want the too large national groups that, you're just another client.
Sure.
Right. So the ones that I took has just over 5,000 units. They're regional. They have enough supervisors. They have properties they manage all over the state and nearby states. So that was my preference. Some people would prefer the big corporate type. Some people would prefer the personal, localized person. It really depends on the size of the property you're taking and what's your long-term strategy.
Yeah, right. Well, going back to what you said, your property management company, in your opinion, is the most important team member. They are the quarterback. They're driving your success. They're responsible for much of the day-to-day responsibilities. So really getting that team member nailed down and aligning them with your culture and your goals and your philosophy is really important and can help you, have a lot more success than you would on your own.
Yeah, and on top of that, they will help you find the rest of the team members. Right? So when you take a property management company that have been around for 10, 15, 20 years, then or more, because ours have 35 years of experience, then they know the brokers, they know the lenders, they know the lawyers, right? They've worked with most of them just by being around for so long, right? So they can help refer you to a good broker, or they can vouch for you with a broker. And just like getting instant credibility for your commercial mortgage broker, you will get that from a veteran property or a manager, right? Giving
Right.
your recommendation automatically brings you in. And not coincidentally, that's how we found our second property, is through that relationship with our property management company.
Yeah, it just goes to show how you take down your first deal and kind of get that ball moving, and it kind of becomes a snowball, right? And things start coming to you, and it's kind of like the law of attraction.
Yes, absolutely. So they'll also be the ones that will come out with you for due diligence. So I can't stress this enough. When you build your team, build it before you get the first property on the contract, not after. A lot of people wait that long.
To some people, that kind of might seem a little counterintuitive or difficult, Joseph. So, how would you go about building your team when you don't have a property even under contract yet? Say you have some single families, but maybe not your first larger multifamily deal. How do you go out and get a property manager on your team, or get a CPA or an attorney or somebody like that?
Well, you got to remember that this is not unusual, right? A lot of people through history graduated from having multiple singles into going into multifamily. So these property managers, especially the veterans, they know that somebody will pick up the phone, call them and say, hey, I've been doing this for 10 years now. I'm ready to move up to the big leagues. I have this much capital and I'm about to buy, I don't know, a 20, 30 unit property in the next 3 months. Can we get together and chat a little bit? And of course they'll chat with you because they want your business.
Sure. Okay.
There's no reason why you need to be concerned about that.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I think that's just a good point to touch on for those people who think that may sound a little out of order.
Well, here's the other advantage of doing that, right? When you start building that relationship with a property manager and you got a deal from a broker, you can pick up the phone and say, hey, I got this deal and it's this part of town and it's this size. and they're saying I can get this much rent, right? Never trust a broker's pro forma, right? They're always optimistic, but you got to remember their job is to sell the property,
Right.
and I'm saying they, but I am a licensed broker myself, right? So our job is to show the best possible scenario for this property because our responsibility is to the seller. Now, I will never lie on a pro forma or an offering, but I've seen some people that stretch, let's just say that nicely, stretch the limits of a certain property. So that doesn't happen in my world. So really, that property management immediately, just by being around for so long, can tell you, oh yeah, don't go to that part of the town, it's horrible.
Yeah,
Or
yeah.
it's rough over there. Or they can tell you, you know what, I know this property, it has an insane amount of plumbing issues, right? Not that it should scare you off a property, but it can help you price the property,
Sure.
right? And they can also help you, if they have presence in the area, they can help you understand what the prices are, what the rents are, what's the cost, how much does it cost to have a full-time maintenance guy and a full-time on-site manager.
Yeah, all really good points there.
So when you come to multifamily, it's not as simple as rent, less insurance, less property management fee equals net income. It's a little bit more complicated underwriting structure, and you really have to understand, and these guys can really help you.
Yeah, really good points, Joseph. And it just kind of drives home that property management company is the quarterback of your team and really driving a lot of things. So step one, find a good property management company that aligns with your goals and your philosophy and your interests. So yeah, really good points there.
Yeah, and they're also your coach, right? On top of being your quarterback, they're also your coach. Because I can tell you that I've researched a lot, online books, podcasts, and so on, but it doesn't compare to the amount of information and lessons that I got from the property management company.
Well, Joseph, switching gears here, let's talk a little bit about you and your future and your goals. So what are your future goals?
So short-term goal, we hope by 2018 to cross the 1,000 unit threshold. We are at a little over 250 units right now, and we are working hard to try to find our next opportunities to get through that threshold.
Yeah, awesome. Okay.
And a little bit longer term, what drives me, one of my big whys is I want to be able to write one of those big cardboard checks like they have on the TV, right? With $1 million amount to Children's Hospital here in Plano.
Awesome. Well,
that's going to take me a little bit more than 2018, but hey, if it happens in 2018, I'll be very happy.
Awesome. Yeah, that's such an awesome goal. I've got to ask, do you practice any kind of visualization with that?
Not really. No, I've been trying to get myself to work on my visualization board, right? My vision board. But it's been so crazy around here recently that we just closed on 97 units last week. So I'm trying to get there. It's a lot of things going on.
So you've got really big goals, Joseph, kind of backed by a strong reason why. And I think that's really important. So really good stuff. I'm sure, I have no doubt that you'll have no problem getting to that 1,000-unit hurdle. And if you don't, that's still great because maybe you land at 7 or 8 or 900 units or whatever it is. That's still a phenomenal amount of success and shooting high. And if you miss your target, you still have landed in such this, high atmosphere that, you'll have achieved success whether you hit or don't hit that target.
We always say dream big.
Yes, I love it. Well, Joseph, as we're wrapping up here, we've got a lightning round, just a series of questions we'd like to fire at you, and you just answer from the hip. How does that sound?
Hit me.
Okay, let's go. The first question we've got is, what was your biggest hurdle getting started investing in real estate, and how'd you overcome it?
I'm going to correlate that to multifamily, really. And we talked about that. Getting attention from brokers, getting visibility to good deals. that was what the most frustrating and the biggest hurdle to get into this industry. Um, and as I discussed, bypassing it, coming through backdoor channels like commercial mortgage brokers, property managers, insurance agent, title agents, and just going out there and sourcing it yourself.
Yeah, awesome. Okay. Well, Joseph, do you have a personal habit that contributes to your success?
Um, I wouldn't call it a habit, more like a trait. I don't have an off switch. So I just perseverance, relentless, just keep driving until you get what you want.
I like it. I've never heard it said that way, that you don't have an off switch, but I can think of some people in my mind that come to mind when I think that. Just always on, always, thinking about real estate or doing real estate, just eating, sleeping, breathing it. So good. Well, Joseph, do you have an online resource that you find valuable?
Audible.com.
I love it. Some audiobooks. Yeah, good stuff.
Yeah. So in today's age and the way we work and the way we live, right, it's really hard to find time to just sit on the couch with a paper book, right? But I'm always driving or walking the dog or doing things that I can have my headphones on. So leveraging that time to listen to audiobooks and podcasts have been phenomenal to my learning curve and my personal development.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll have to give a plug here really quickly for the listeners out there listening and who have not yet subscribed to audible.com. I'll drop a link in the show notes, and that will get you a free month of Audible and one free book. So whatever book Joseph recommends here coming up, you can go out and pick that up entirely for free. So great transition to the next question, Joseph. What book would you recommend to the listeners and why?
So I'll split it a little bit. If you haven't gotten started in real estate, Rich Dad Poor Dad is a really good inspirational book.
Yes.
It's not a how-to by any means, but it'll help you understand the motivation behind going into real estate. And it's a little bit of a love-hate relationship with this book because it got me started. It got so many people started. The hate part is it gets so many people started. So we get a lot more competition because of this book.
Yeah, definitely so.
Yeah, if you're a little bit more advanced but you're trying to figure out, okay, I want to transition to multifamily. How do I conquer this huge monumental task? And it seems too overwhelming. Then Gary Keller's The One Thing is a really great book that helps you kind of figure out, okay, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time, right? So it'll help you kind of figure out a blueprint to achieving your big goals. And lastly, if you're a business owner, and owning real estate is a business, but if you're a business owner specifically, there's a great unfamiliar book called Profit First. And it's a fantastic book. I think every business owner in America needs to read that.
Awesome. Well, we'll link all of those books in the show notes for our audience to find. And like I said, if they wanted to listen to that on Audible, subscribe to audible.com through the link that I will leave in the show notes, and you can pick one of those up for free. So, Joseph, last question here. If you were to give advice to your 20-year-old self to get started investing in real estate, what would it be?
Okay, I'm going to avoid the obvious answer of 2007, 2008 is the bottom. I wish somebody would have told that.
A little crystal ball.
Yes. I would probably tell myself to skip singles and go straight for multifamily.
Yeah, okay. I like it. And any particular reason why?
Just risk mitigation and the ability to scale is phenomenally more in multifamily than it is in singles.
Yeah, I love it. Yes, great points. Well, Joseph, as we're wrapping up here, we've had a great conversation, lots of good content, understanding how you got started and how you perceive the benefits of multifamily over single family and all of those great topics we've discussed. Is there any parting piece of advice you'd like to leave with our audience?
What I would want to have everybody to pay attention to is real estate has a cycle. And everybody in the industry kind of agree that we've been in the ninth inning for the last 3 years. So whatever you walk into with eyes wide open, right? Things can turn and will turn. It's not an if question, it's a when question, right? Now, I don't have a crystal ball. I don't know if it's in 6 months or in 6 years, but I do know that just the way real estate have been working in the past and the market have been working in the past, the musical chairs game is going to stop at some point, and some people will be left with no chairs. So do whatever you can to make sure you're not the one without the chair.
Yeah, great advice. Great sound advice, Joseph. Well, Joseph, for our audience members who would like to learn more about you, connect with you, reach out to you, where can they find you?
So we have a website. It's very easy. It's ebgtx.com. That's our acquisition company. And you can find information about our portfolio, what we do, about me, and ways to reach, like my email, my phone number. Everything is online. So ebgtx.com. That's our website.
Joseph, thank you so much for coming on the show today. Take care. And until next time, we look forward to speaking with you.
Thank you so much.
Take care, Joseph. All right, that wraps up our interview today with Joseph Gozlan. I hope you enjoyed it. For a reference to all the resources mentioned in today's episode, click in the show notes where you'll find links to the books mentioned, along with that free Audible subscription if you haven't already signed up. For more information, resources, content, blog posts, or just to connect with me, go to www.jacobayers.com. Till next week, signing off, I'm your host, Jacob Ayers.
You've been listening to the Real Estate Way to Wealth and Freedom podcast, providing you actionable content to build your real estate empire. Nothing on this show should be considered specific, personal, or professional advice. Please consult an appropriate tax, legal, real estate, financial, or business professional for personal advice. The opinions of guests are their own. Information is not guaranteed. All investment strategies have a potential for profit or loss. The host is operating on behalf of the Real Estate Way to Wealth and Freedom, LLC, exclusively.